Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Today we have Pratikanta. Is a PhD candidate at NIT Meghalaya. So today we'll be discussing his transaction paper, FPGA-based real-time implementation of quadral duty digital PWM controlled permanent magnet BLDC drive. Thank you, Pratikanta. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Thank you for providing me this podium. And today, I'm Pratikant Mishra, PhD scholar from the Department of Electrical Engineering of NIT Meghalaya. So, as you can see, we'll be discussing today in the session that is what is an FPGA-based real-time implementation of a quadral duty digital pulse width modulation controlled permanent magnet BLDC drive. So what exactly it is, I'll be letting you know when we go in deep into the session. So let's start. So this is a brief outline of the session. And first, what happens is I'll be briefing you with the introduction. All the participants, I'll be briefing you with the introduction. And later on, we'll be switching to the dual duty digital pulse width modulation, how this one works. And based on this dual duty digital pulse width modulation, how have we derived quadral duty digital pulse width modulation? And finally, how this quadral duty digital pulse width modulation based control is designed, and finally the experimental validation and discussion. So okay, let us start. So this is a brief abstract. You might have been through this, and let's move to the introduction. Yeah, this is the introduction, and mostly this introduction is based on theoretical aspects of what is this motor is, what's BLDC motor, what is the usage of this one, and how is it beneficial for applications in different areas. And based on what criterias we have been motivated to design this controller that we are presenting today, I am presenting today. And based on this particular thing, all those stuffs, have we got motivated actually. So please bear with me because this is a little bit of theoretical part, but I hope that everyone, all the participants will have a brief idea on how to get motivated with a particular problem related to this particular field that I'm presenting here. So
Yes, yes. Please go ahead with the basics, Pratikanta,
yeah,
because not
yeah,
all will be familiar with it. Don't
yeah,
worry
yeah,
about the time. Please.
yeah. So, so what exactly? What are the conventional machines that are we using in day-to-day applications? So these are mostly single. Means suppose if we are following household applications, so basically they will be single-phase induction motor, or in some cases there are those are permanent magnet brush DC motors. So what are the benefits of permanent magnet brush DC motor? Is the torque to weight ratio is very less. So within a compact size, small size motor can perform the work that induction motor or any other motor, that synchronous motor cannot do. So the torque that is being produced from a small motor is comparatively very high, and the dynamic response also is better than other motors. And the excitation loss is obviously zero because this is very less, because this is permanent magnet motor. And energy efficiency is suppose because as torque to weight ratio is very less, so energy efficiency is very high also. So and what happens, but the problem that is with the permanent magnet brush DC motor is there are brushes present over there. So these brushes, what they do, they'll produce some noise. And obviously because those are carbon brushes and they need to be replaced every then and now. So at that time the maintenance cost increases a little bit. And similarly there is another motor, this is induction motor. So this is mostly for household application. This is single phase induction motor. Or for suppose if it is the power rating is very high for some applications, then we go for three phase induction motor. So as all might be aware, all the participants might be aware that single phase induction motor works with a lagging power factor. So obviously there are some losses. Okay, and the ohmic losses that I have already mentioned here is also because the windings present over there. So you can say this motor is very rugged in nature, but the problem that happens is with the losses that we are facing. So obviously the power that we are supplying and the efficiency, based on the efficiency, the output, expected output cannot be achieved. So to overcome these problems, BLDC motor was introduced. BLDC machine was introduced, and this is very long. Means very uh, early concept. This BLDC motor is, but this was actually realized when this power electronic switches came into the scenario. So all the advantages that are there in permanent magnet brush DC motor is also present in BLDC motor, and if it is permanent magnet BLDC motor, obviously. So, but another additional advantage is the maintenance cost is reduced because obviously we are not using the carbon brushes. So what happens, as the name suggests, it is brushless DC motor, and what we do is this commutation is done from a power electronic converter, and this is which is driven through a controller. So we'll be moving to the next slide, and as you can see, the commercially BLDC motor was used from 1970s, and because from here only the power electronics switches got introduced, and from there uh, many applications sequentially came out, and some vehicular applications are very popular, as you might all be aware that most of the two-wheelers, that electric two-wheelers that are coming into the market are based on BLDC motor only, and for high power range, or like for four-wheeler or something, we prefer PMSM motors, because due to the torque ripple present in BLDC motor. Next is magnetically suspended control moment gyroscope, and in aerospace application. So aerospace space application, you can also have a look on this, and I have shown some literature also, and solar and submerged water pumping. That is submerged water pumping means in sea or something. So BLDC motor, when it is submerged in the sea or any river, then in those cases also BLDC motor are preferred. And solar water pumping is very very popular or emerging concept of this BLDC motor application. Next is, but what is the problem with this BLDC motor is, this is a little bit costly in nature. So why this cost is because obviously this BLDC, PMDC motor, and this induction motor, those motors are what actually they are plug and play motors. So obviously when those are plug and play motors, so this controller setup and driver setup is not required for that. So, and when this additional driver setup is added for a BLDC motor, obviously the cost will increase. So, suppose means like if you go to any e-commerce website, then you can go for the ceiling fans and you can have a look over there. That BLDC based fans would be somewhat like twice the price of normal induction motor based fan, and but the thing is the power rating will be almost 2 to 3 times lesser than that. With the same means like 2 to 3 times lesser power, we can perform the same task with a BLDC motor. So now what happens is BLDC motors, as you can see here, are rarely used for low means domestic and low power industrial applications. What happens with this is, means why am I saying this? You might be finding a lot of literature on small scale applications of BLDC motor. But what is the problem? Like suppose a mixer grinder or a fan is there. So we cannot afford a very costly in the means a fan or a mixer grinder, when the suppose the price is in that case, suppose in a particular case, if the price is very high, like 2 to 3 times the single means as compared to a single phase induction motor. So in that cases, basically this designers, they don't prefer BLDC motor. So what could be the solutions for that? We can either use a simple controller or a simple converter, that is a reduced cost converter or a reduced cost controller. So obviously there are a lot of literatures on reduced cost converters, but reduced cost controllers are rarely you can find that. So why am I why am I saying this reduced cost controller is that eventually you will be knowing after a few slides that why means low cost controllers are required. So let us discuss how can we design a low cost controller first. So simple control strategies. Simple control strategies are the foundation, or we can say the backbone of a low cost controller. So moving on to the next slide. The simple means what are the conventional controls? Mostly those are hysteresis current control or PWM control conjuncted with a PI controller, and or field oriented control, DTC control, or recently we have seen many intuitive controls algorithms also have been means introduced to drive the motor. And but what happens is most of these control strategies like scalar control or in vector control, what happens here, these control strategies are very complex in nature. So I'm not saying complex in terms of means understanding that one. The complexity is there with the calculations and or the operations involved in the controller or the control technique. So what can we do is we can choose a simple controller, and those simple controllers we can implement it to ASICs. So why are ASICs required is ASICs means application specific integrated circuits. And why are ASICs preferred as is like when we are going for a bulk production for a particular implementation or application. In that case, ASICs are preferred in case means as compared to a uh, as compared to FPGAs or any other microcontrollers, because ultimately the goal is to reduce the cost. So ASIC implementation for a bulk production reduces the cost of the final prototype. So secondly, these ASICs might be digital or analog, but as we can easily implement our control strategies in digital environment or digital circuits. So for that reason, we use digital controllers or digital ASICs. So as you can see that I have already mentioned that digital redesign of conventional or analog controller is very suitable in digital platform. So, but what happens is digital redesign of these state of art controllers that I've mentioned here means is very complex in nature. So what can we do? We can go for a simple control that, and in literature, if we are looking into deep into the literature, mostly the simple controllers are what on off control that you can say, or means, or you can say that bang bang controller, or you can say it might be simple sliding mode control, or uh, here I have taken a dual DUT digital pulse width modulation control technique. So what is it? You can go for the literature of this one also that I have mentioned in my bibliography finally. So sorry, in my references finally. So this is a dual DUT digital pulse width modulation. As the name suggests, there are only two discrete DUT ratios, so they might be D high, like D high, and this one is high, and suppose this is D low. So these are two particular duty ratios in which the motor will be driven. A BLDC motor will be driven, and suppose what happens here is suppose the motor for a low duty ratio, the motor is being driven with low speed, and that low speed might be suppose omega L. And for similarly for high duty ratio, the motor is being driven with suppose omega H. So these duty ratios are constantly supplied, and these particular speeds are achieved. So these speeds, suppose the motor is being driven right now, so maximum possible range will be limited within omega L and omega H. So obviously, when we are getting limited within a particular speed range, we cannot adopt a higher or a wider range of speed control. Secondly, if we are not narrowing this DH and DL value, then what happens is we will be getting a lot of speed and torque ripples, as I have mentioned here, and it might also limit the motor speed in a narrow range.
Pratik,
So
and I just one quick question.
yeah, yeah.
So the D high, is it just 0 or 1, or what is the range, like 0.1 to 0.9, or what is the range of values that they can take? Both
See,
the discrete,
yeah,
discrete.
discrete values these are, and suppose you can choose it within 0 to 1. Okay, so suppose this depends on the range of this working range of your motor. Okay, so
Mhm.
suppose you want the full range, the full possible range of speed control. Okay,
Mhm.
so you can go for 0 to 1. But obviously, when you are targeting for a particular reference speed, this
Mhm.
torque and speed ripple will be increased if this DH and DL is having the widest possible gap, isn't it? So
Mhm.
obviously when you're narrowing down this one, so and if you're limiting this DH and DL value within a narrow range, then obviously the torque ripple will be reduced. So
Mhm.
based on the speed range, you have to decide what should be the DH and DL values. So that I'll
Okay.
be explaining in the later
Okay.
slides. Okay,
Okay. Please go ahead.
so yeah, so the desired speed is achieved if the system parameters remains constant. I have already mentioned here, if the system parameters, suppose the speed reference is not varying that much, if the load is not varying that much, then in this triple DPWM, you can achieve very less speed on torque ripples. So basically on this particular motivation, we went to design this quadrilateral digital pulse width modulation technique. So what happens here is when we decided to introduce a particular simple control strategy with the same features of duty digital pulse width modulation, but with a wider speed range and lesser possible torque and speed ripples, we went for this quadrilateral digital pulse width modulation. So this will what this will do is, as the name suggests, quadrilateral means four. So quad means four. So that means we have chosen four duty ratios. So why not eight, or why not six? This question might arise. So I'll be explaining afterwards. And so compared to the triple DPWM technique, QDPWM control technique compromises two extra duty ratios, that are zero and full duties. So why zero and full duties only? Because if we are using full and zero duties in digital level circuitry, you won't be requiring any other particular modules like comparator or counter. These are not required anymore. So that's why zero and full duties. So four additional means two additional duties, and two extra means two previous duties that were present in dual digital pulse width modulation will do our work. Okay, so let us this is what the motivation was, and now I'll be explaining and suppose means and again I will brief the agenda once again. So the limited employment in low cost application was our problem. So we went for a we went looked into the reason. So this is what is the cost involved with the driver circuit. Okay, and with what happens with the reason, we went for a solution, a simple control technique adaptation. So what could be the simple control technique? This is triple DPWM or anything else like bang bang controller or any other controller. This is the same thing but with a different name. You can go for that controller, as if this is a simple control technique. But what happens, speed control, precision and range cannot be achieved simultaneously. Okay, and now what is the reason for that? This is the speed control range depends on the gap of the duty ratio, as I have already explained over there. So what is the solution for this again? This is what is addition of two extra duty ratios that I have shown, that I have already explained earlier. And after the addition of this two extra duty ratios, this will become quadrilateral digital pulse width modulation technique. So this is the process. So finally, I'll start with explaining what is triple D PWM control technique. I'll brief it as much as possible. So what happens here? We'll sense the motor speed and DC link current in triple D PWM. Then we'll compare the current with the current limit that we have set. Okay, so obviously when we are comparing this, so we can do one thing. We can, if the limit current is very high, this DC link current that we are sensing over here, as you can see, this is the DC link current that we are sensing. And if the current is very high as compared to our current limit, then what we can do, we can select a zero duty ratio, or we can skip this particular duty ratio in that particular sampling time. Or else what we can do, if the current is within the limit, we can go for the comparison of speed. So if the speed is greater than the reference speed, then we can choose a low duty ratio, or if the speed is lesser than the reference speed, then we can go for the high duty ratio for the particular sampling time, that is TS. So based on that, the BLDC motor will be driven with 120-degree commutation logic, and again we'll be following the same sequence throughout the operation. So obviously, as you can see here, this is a VSI, and from this VSI, this three-phase BLDC motor is being driven, and from the BLDC motor, we are getting the position information. You can use any sensors. It might be sensorless thing, or it might be Hall sensor based, or any position encoder based thing. And from here, we are getting the information regarding the speed, and this speed we are feeding to the digital controller. We are already having a reference with us, and we are comparing this reference, this particular speed with the reference, and we are deciding whether to skip the duty ratio or to provide a high duty ratio or a low duty ratio. So now but what was the problem that I've already explained? Because the large gap between D low and high is mandatory for a larger load variation or broader range of speed control, which which will obviously cause a speed ripple. So now to overcome this one, this quadral duty digital pulse width modulation was designed. So as you can see, the two extra duty ratios will do what is, it will allow the maximum speed control range that is possible for any particular condition within the limits of the hardware that we are using. And first, what will we do? We are having a reference speed. We'll compare it with the speed of the motor as in the earlier case. And what we will do with the comparator, we'll be having some delay, and from this delay we'll be generating a duty ratio. Means like what happens is this comparison of a particular sampling time will be used, and also the earlier like the earlier sampling time also will be used. So both the errors of current sampling time and the previous sampling time will be used, and the duty ratio will be generated. And obviously from this duty ratio will be provided if and only if the current is within the limit, this limit range. So now we'll be moving on onto the algorithm. So with every rising edge of the clock, what we'll do, we'll if there is no reset, obviously, then we'll sense the DC link current and the motor speed. We'll compare it with the current limit, and obviously if it is greater than the current limit, then we'll be skipping that particular sampling time. Or else what we'll do, we'll compare the speed with the reference. If the speed is greater than the if the speed was also greater in the previous sampling time, then we'll be going for zero duty ratio, or else we'll be going for D low. Similarly, if the speed is lesser than the reference thing, then what we'll do, we'll again compare, was the speed also greater than the reference speed, sorry, lesser than the reference speed in the previous duty ratio. Then we'll be going, if yes, then we'll be going for full duty, or else we'll be going for high duty. And again, back EMF based commutation, that is 120-degree commutation is adopted, and this process will go on. So what are the advantages? As I have already mentioned, the advantages will be the higher speed range, better dynamics, and what is the what is that is reduced speed ripples, torque ripples, casing vibration, and noise also we have measured over here. So we'll be looking into that particular thing. So now we'll move into how this controller is designed. Okay. So obviously, when we are going for a sampling period, that is TS, which is dependent upon the mechanical time constant of the motor, basically, and the dynamics of the motor at no load condition. So the sampling time that we have calculated here. So what happens? Suppose we have properly calculated the sampling time, and we are not varying any parameters that we, or the conditions are not varying. So in that case, what happens, if we are having a low duty ratio, if the speed is lesser than the reference, and we are providing with a high duty ratio, then obviously the speed will increase, and it will reach to a particular value, that is omega RH. And in the next sampling period, if we are what we are doing is we are applying low duty ratio, and the motor speed is again reducing from the reference value. So what happens is at this particular moment, this if we have properly calculated the sampling time, then what happens? The speed should be lesser than the reference in this particular case. But as you can see, at a lightly loaded condition, this thing is not happening. The reason is because as we have thought, the motor parameters might not be limited within a particular range. So this thing happens that we have designed the controller for a particular load, but the load suddenly varies. So suppose we have designed this sampling time, or we have calculated the sampling time based on a high value of load, but all of a sudden the load is reducing. So obviously the speed that is from omega RH will not reduce all of a sudden within the next sampling time. So this was the fundamental of introducing these two controllers.
Pratikanta, one
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
So if I understand correctly,
Yeah.
the concept of having two discrete duty ratio is, let's say you first have a duty ratio of 0.9, and
Yeah.
then you're trying to reduce it to 0.1.
Yeah.
In conventional cases, you would reduce it continuously, like from 0.9 to 0.1, you will have 0.8, 0.7, all those things. But
Yeah,
in
yeah.
your case, it is just a switch. You just
Yeah.
switch from 0.9 to 0.1.
0.1.
Okay.
So conventionally means what happens is that conventional thing you have mentioned is a very smooth concept. Okay, so you won't be finding any torque ripple or speed ripple, but obviously you have to compromise the size with the size of the controller. Okay.
Yeah,
Finally,
conventional, I meant as in power converters. In
yeah,
basic
yeah,
power
yeah, yeah,
converters,
in basic
you
power
don't
converter.
have this concept.
Yeah, yeah,
You,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Thank you. Yeah, please go.
now we'll be deciding how to find out the sampling time. So obviously, as you can see, the rotational speed of a BLDC motor or a particular DC motor also you can you can calculate in this fashion. So this is a particular speed of a motor at a particular moment of time based on the reference speed. So, so suppose if you have found out this particular speed at a particular time, obviously at a high, as I've mentioned here in the previous slide, this is a high point of speed and this is the lowest point of speed. So obviously we can find out this low value of speed, lowest value of speed and highest value of speed. So based on this, we can calculate the maximum speed error that is possible in our case. So from this thing, that is the calculation of maximum speed error or the maximum speed ripple, we can calculate the sampling type like this. So obviously this is, as you can see, this is dependent upon the what is this tau mechanical, that is the mechanical time constant, and omega r max at no load. So this I've detailed properly in the paper, as and the participants can follow the paper. So now to calculate these duty ratios. So as sir also mentioned that the duty ratios might be 0.1 or 0.9. So how to calculate these duty ratios is like we can go for the simple torque equation of the motor, and from the coupled circuit equation we can derive these terms, and we can implement it for the steady state of the motor, and we can find out the duty ratio for which, suppose we have decided to drive the motor at a particular steady state speed, and this will be based, suppose the d high value is suppose 0.9. So obviously for 0.9 d high value, obviously there will be a speed at a particular loading condition, that is TL. So and similarly we can find out d low and d high values. Again, how to design the current limiter. So here we have a small assumption over here that suppose the maximum error of the speed, that is omega r reference minus omega r, is this del omega r by 2, that is the total speed ripple, uh, the half of the total speed ripple will be the maximum error at the maximum positive error or negative error. So based on this, we have find out the value of K, and this K is what we are using for a P control of current. So now this is the hardware setup that we have designed in our laboratory to verify this controller. So as you can see, uh, the setup basically is of a PMBLDC motor, and we are using a variable DC supply of 24 volts. So DC supply is being used, and a voltage source inverter has been designed. So this is the voltage source inverter. As you can see, this is a very compact voltage source inverter that we have designed in our laboratory, and there is a driver and buffer circuit, and an Altera Cyclone 2 FPGA is being used, and another Arduino Mega Arduino Mega 2560 is being used for ADC purpose, and DC link current sensor is also being used. And as you can see from here, this is a particular voltage source inverter. This is supplying to a BLDC motor, and from the BLDC motor we are using Hall sensor, and we are finding out the position information. This we are feeding to an Altera Cyclone to FPGA, and from the FPGA we are deriving the pulses, and from the pulses we are driving the voltage source inverter. And meanwhile, for the current sensing purpose, we are using a small current sensor for that is 20 ampere range, and a scaling circuit is also being designed. I mean, we have designed a scaling circuit, and the scaling circuit is required because of to reduce the current that we are feeding this DC link current that we are measuring from here. And again we are having one ADC, that is Arduino in our case, and Arduino controller, and from that Arduino controller we are taking out the digital values of current, and from the we have scaled it down to reduce the current and to feed it to an Altera FPGA. And this particular setup, like we have designed a MATLAB GUI to drive the whole setup. Like we can control the particular thing, this particular motor from the GUI itself. So and we can visualize the speed of the motor without like any extra arrangement, and we are taking this particular speed that is being measured in the FPGA to directly to the MATLAB through the GUI. So UART communication we are using over there. We have designed the UART also. So next, what MOSFETs that we are using is IRF-Z44 MOSFETs, and obviously most of you will be aware of the ratings of the MOSFETs. And again, this is the motor is 8 pole pair motor, and 3 Hall sensors are out there obviously. So now yeah.
Pratikant, right on the hardware setup, I had one question.
Yeah.
What is the startup sequence here? Do you start up the
BLDC motor, like actually we don't, this is a we don't need any starting thing over here, because this is a self-starting motor. You just have to give the supply, and we are using a MATLAB GUI that can directly feed the supply from the VSI, like this when we are giving the command from the MATLAB GUI, obviously the FPGA will start generating the pulses, and obviously from these pulses the motor will be driven directly.
Okay. So understood.
Yeah. So just like a DC motor it is. So now the FPGA and the pulses that we are designing inside this Altera FPGA is based on this time proportioning technique. That is, we are having a counter that is being matched with the predefined duty ratio value, and when the counter matches, then obviously at that time we'll be getting the pulses. So this is a T-on period. When the counter matches with this predefined duty value, at that time we'll be having the on till that time we'll be having the pulses, and after that that is the off period. So this is the total sampling period, and based on the clock pulses of the FPGA, we are just increasing the counter value, and we are matching with a predefined counter value that is based on the duty ratio we have decided for D high and D low. So this is the rating of the motor it is, and you can also have a look on this on the paper. Okay, so based on the comparison of 3 control strategies like triple DPWM, QDPWM, and PIPWM, we are having one proper calculation, or we went into the synthesis of this all these three controllers to compare the total number of LUTs, flip-flops, and IOs and BUFGs required. So obviously, as we can see, that mainly the LUTs and flip-flops that are required for a PI-PWM is very high as compared to triple D PWM. But for QD-PWM, somewhat like a little bit higher number of LUTs and flip-flops are required as compared to triple D PWM. But this is fine as long as because this is fine because it is not as high as the complex controllers that we are using. So this is the purpose of showing this comparison, that even QDD PWM is using little bit of extra resources as compared to triple D PWM. It's not using very high number of resources as compared to conventional techniques. So PI-PWM is a basic technique, and that's why we have compared it with the PI-PWM technique. Yes, someone was saying something, I guess.
Yeah, is this related to, does this change with respect to block diagram implementation versus VHDL or
No,
Verilog?
this thing is the same. You use Verilog, you use VHDL, block diagram, anything you use, this will be the same as long as you know how to make your code compact. Okay. So if you are not using extra commands or extra, like when you can do a simple a thing simply, then without using any extra command, then if your code is compact, then almost the same thing will happen with any procedure like Verilog, VHDL, or this
So
block
is
diagram.
there any math operation difference between the two?
Uh,
Because it's consuming, how does one math operation, how many lookup tables, is there any direct correlation?
no, like you cannot directly say the number of LUTs and flip-flops that will be generated. This you have to go for the synthesis, and afterwards, so you can guess it. Like you can guess it because obviously the number of LUTs are based and flip-flops are based on the code. Okay, on the algorithm. So obviously, when there is a comparator, suppose can I move a little bit backward?
Yeah. Sure.
So suppose this is the algorithm. Okay. So as you can see, there are how many number of comparators? One, two, three. Sorry, one, again two, three, and four. Here we are having four number of comparators. So based on one single comparator, you can guess that okay, this much of LUTs and flip-flops will be required. Again, from this, obviously, when you are generating one D low and D high value, so obviously there will be comparators. Why these comparators will be required? Because there is a counter, and you're continuously comparing with the counter values, and you are generating, as I have shown here, the time proportion control. You're having one counter, and this counter, when it matches with a predefined value, then obviously at that time you can say that okay, this much of at that time the pulse will be generated. So that's what the case was. In our case, we are using two extra counters, that two extra duty ratios, but for this thing no extra counter or no extra comparator are required, because this is T high, and this is 0 and full duty. So no additional counter or this one is required, comparator. So obviously,
Understood.
when you are having a calculation of number of counters that you are using, number of comparators you are using, so you can guess that okay, this much of LUTs and flip-flops will be required.
Okay, good. One follow-up question is, your
Yeah.
motivation was you're trying to, if I'm not wrong, you're trying to reduce the cost in the ASIC, right?
Yeah.
Because you are trying to, but your implementation is on FPGA, because
Yeah.
I get asked this question a lot during
Yeah.
my reviews. So,
Okay.
into the reviewer's question, you're implementing on a very expensive platform, but you're
Yeah.
claiming you're trying to reduce costs because you're going for ASIC. Any
Yeah.
question like that came?
This is the question that we will be getting mostly in the electrical engineering, because as you go deep into electronics, you will realize that FPGA means any of the controller that you are intended means you are intending to design in FPGA, in ASIC, will be first designed on FPGA, because both of them are similar platforms.
Okay.
And
So this is like a prototype version of ASIC.
yeah, a prototype
Mm.
version of an ASIC. So obviously, when it is a prototype of an ASIC and you are comparing the cost, because in many of the literature you'll be finding the direct comparison is based on FPGA, and they'll be claiming that an IC has been designed. And
Understood.
I filed a patent on this and the particular
Very
thing.
good.
You can find that out. Recently, I filed it, and we have done the thing with both FPGA and ASIC also. ASIC design we have also done.
So it's as good as claiming that the same performance will
Yeah,
hold
yeah.
good if you go for ASIC. Understood.
Yes.
Understood.
Okay.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So now from this controller, this comparison, now we'll be moving on to the speed control performance of the motor. So as you can see, we have taken different test conditions, and for a D high value of 0.9 and 0.1, we have designed one quadrille QEEPWM controller and also triple DPWM, and we have compared the speed. So as you can see over here, this is the nature of a triple DPWM controller, and the reference here was 800 RPM. But the triple DPWM, as it is the D low value is almost equal to 0.1, so it cannot achieve this particular speed, that is 800 RPM. But as zero duty is also present for QEEPWM, then this control can achieve this particular speed. Obviously, there will be some ripples, but still it can achieve the reference speed. So
Pratikanta, maybe you can press escape and zoom into one of the graph, because it is kind of
okay.
yeah, so that when you point, we can just see. Yeah.
Is it visible right now?
Yeah.
No, it is not properly visible, I guess.
Or if you have the paper, you can just zoom into the paper. That's also fine.
Yeah.
Paper.
So I'll just find out the paper quickly. And
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, is it visible right now?
Yes, now it's can zoom in a bit. Yes.
So as here you can see that as I have already mentioned that triple DPWM controller cannot track this particular 800 RPM reference speed. This is because the DLO value is suppose 0.1 for triple DPWM, then obviously it will be confined to a range of somewhere between 1200 and 1100 RPM. So obviously it won't be able to track this particular speed, and that's why I was saying that the speed control range will be narrowed down. But obviously with QEEPWM, you can track this particular speed, and you can have a look that there are some particular speed ripples, but obviously still you can by compromising little bit with the errors, speed ripples, you can achieve a little bit, means the reference speed. Now when we are moving to 1200 RPM, suppose the reference is 1200 RPM over here, and that in that case you can see this quadrille duty digital pulse width modulation is properly following, but still triple DPWM is not being able, because here at only one or two places like this one or over here and and here all, in three cases only within 3 seconds, 3 times only it has touched the reference speed. But when we are approaching towards the range of this particular range of operation, then it can track the speed properly. Both of the controllers will be able to track the speed properly, this mid-range of operations. And when you are increasing the load, you can see the speed ripples will obviously increase. As you can see, the speed ripple is very high. Suppose at this particular time, the motor is suppose this is for a load of 0.25 Newton meter. So at 0.25 Newton, it is for 0.1 Newton meter. So at 0.1 Newton meter, as you can see, the 800 RPM, both the controllers are able to achieve this reference speed. But the problem is this motor, this triple DPWM controller, the motor will touch the reference speed and again it will move very high, because with a little bit of introduction of D high, the speed will be going towards 850, like 1500 RPM error will be there, and again it will reduce. So obviously the torque ripple will be very high. So the motor will start shaking like anything, and in this particular period, it will start. It will be a ripple. You can clearly visualize the ripple at this moment, and again at this moment. So when you're increasing and gradually when you're increasing the load, so and you're moving to suppose 0.5 Newton meter, then as you can see, the reference speed of 2000 RPM is being this is being able means like sorry, this one, the reference speed of 2000 RPM, the QEEPWM control is properly following, and you can see it has touched the reference speed many times. But again, only 2 or 3 times you can see, or 4 or 5 times only, this triple EPWM is able to track a particular high speed at a very high load.
Understood, understood.
I'll be moving to the slides again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, as I have already mentioned, suppose if we're reducing the D high value, and sorry, if we're reducing the D high value, and at that case, what happens is, as you can see for this particular comparison, the D high value is 0.1 and D low value is 0. D high value is 0.5 and D low value is 0.1. So in this particular case, what happens? As you can see, the settling time is little bit lesser for the case of quadruple duty digital pulse width modulation, but the settling time for this thing, this is a dual duty digital pulse modulation, is little bit higher. So this is the range. As you can see, this is the variation in settling time. And again, the same thing happens here when we are driving the motor at no load condition, and we are having a reference of 1000 RPM. The motor will not be able to track this speed unless and until a high load is being implemented on the motor. So this is for the triple DPWM. For QEEPWM, as you can see, with no load or with the sudden variation of load, or again we are switching to no load, then in all the three cases, in both the cases, you can see that it is tracking the reference speed. And but with the increment in what happens in increment of the reference speed, you can see that both the controllers can track the reference speeds. Now, again, with the sudden variation in reference speed, as you can see, both the controllers are properly detecting the reference speed if the load is, the D low value is 0.1 and D high value is 0.9. But all of a sudden, when you are changing the reference from 800 to somewhere around 800 to 1900 RPM, this in this particular graph you can see, because the D low value is 0.1, it is tracking the speed, that this 800 RPM. But again, when it is 0, if you are increasing a little bit also, if you are little bit narrowing the range, you can see that triple DPWM won't be able to track the speed again. And again here, this is the speed tracking ability we have checked properly, like how the motor is tracking the speed or the reference speed, and you can see both are comparable here. And both the controllers, this is triple DPWM, this is quadruple duty digital pulse width modulation, and for both the cases you can see that those are comparable natures. And again here we have compared the average that is motor speed ripple or speed error, and you can see that at very low value of load and low reference speed, you can see a very high value of speed error can be observed gradually. And similarly, when you're going to the mid ranges of operational speed, that is mid range, as I'm saying, because this is the almost the half of the reference, like 1500 is half of the motor rated speed. So at mid operation range and mid load range, as you can see, the you'll be observing very less speed ripple. But again, as in both the case, in all the cases, you can see that in most of the cases, the average speed ripple is lesser as in case of quadruple duty digital pulse width modulation, and as compared to triple DPWM control technique. Now, this is another additional graph that I'm showing here. This is regarding because as we have used only one Hall sensor in our case to measure the speed, so obviously for low speed region we'll be having little bit of error in measuring the speed, which will again result into speed ripple of motor. So as you can see, the reason behind using only one Hall sensor to measure the speed is this will again reduce the size of the controller, because when you are having three Hall sensor, we have to go for the same operation three times. So obviously, when we are having three times the calculation that we can do for with a single calculation, obviously the size of the ASIC or the IC will be increased, and obviously the speed, this cost of the IC also will be increased. So in this particular graph, I have shown that with low value of reference speed, the error is little bit present over here, but this is the absolute error that we have measured from the tachometer and compare it with the average speed that we have measured from our control technique. It is within 2% only, lesser than 2% in all the cases. So gradually when the speed is increasing, the error will also increase, but low values of speed and low values of speed, the error will be within 2%, which is also, you can say, is not very high. So now I have shown here how the controller is performing, or the controller is means the duty ratios are varying based on the speed and the current. So this is the DC link current and this is the omega R value. As you can see here, I have shown I have taken 0.5 as the high duty ratio and 0.1 as the low duty ratio. This is just because, to show that the difference between high and low. So that's why I have taken this one. So this is the 0.5 duty ratio, that is the high. This is the low duty ratios. As you can see, the reference here is 1500 RPM. So obviously when the motor is going, if the motor speed is higher than this, then obviously you can see this is 0 duty ratio and again 0.1 duty ratio, that is D low. Again that is 0 duty ratio and again 0.1 duty ratio. This will continue till the motor is not the motor speed is not becoming lesser than the reference. So obviously when it is getting lesser than the reference, then as you can see, a continuous means from here to here, again here at this particular moment of time, the motor speed is getting lesser than the reference. So again D high is getting produced. Similarly, this thing will happen in all the cases, and I have shown it here for different cases like 22 RPM reference speed. And you can see one thing you can observe is as the motor speed is, suppose here the reference speed is increasing. So as you can see, when the motor speed is increasing, you can have a look over here. The value of full duty and D high is more observable as compared to this case, because here the reference was lesser. So obviously with D low value and with zero duty also you can run the motor, means the power consumption will be lesser obviously, and here the power consumption is little bit higher because we have increased the reference speed. So again, when you are increasing the load here, in this case it was driven in at no load. Again, when you are using as we have increased to 0.3 Newton meter, you can visualize here that the D high and D high and full duty ratios are more prominent in this case. So again, switching to the next slide, we have also compared the mechanical vibrations also. So how have we calculated the mechanical vibration? We have used a low cost, very simple low cost piezoelectric transducer. And as you can see, the motor vibrations are directly proportional, are in direct proportion to the electrical voltage. That is, the vibrations that are happening over the case are in direct proportion with the output electrical voltage of a piezoelectric transducer. So we have only measured the voltage of the piezoelectric transducer, and from there we have estimated the mechanical vibration accelerations that are happening on the motor casing, and it was placed horizontally over the motor. And as you can see, when the motor that is being driven at the reference of 1000 RPM, what happens is, till this particular 4 second, as you can see, we have considered a D high and D low value of 0.9 and 0.1. But all of a sudden, we have what we have done, we have increased the D low value a little bit from 4 second. So obviously you can see that the triple D PWM is not able to follow the speed. as it is not able to follow the speed, obviously the speed ripple will reduce for in case of triple DPWM. But for the quadrille duty digital pulse width modulation, the vibrations are still the same. But as you can see, the vibration range is very lesser, and it is not properly visible here. The average value of vibration is in terms of electrical millivolt, it is 0.0065 within 0.0065 to 0.065, and again here it is getting reduced from 0.07 to 0.05.
Pratikanda, shouldn't it be the opposite? The one that tracks should have lesser ripple and the one doesn't should have more ripple?
Yeah, that question might arise. That's what I was expecting. So as I can see, the motor, as in this case, the motor, obviously, as you can see in both the cases, the speed ripple is not very different. But as you can see in this case, from here, the motor is not able to with triple DPWM, the motor is not able to track the speed. This is because here in this case the motor is constantly following the controller is constantly supplying low duty ratio, and the duty ratio is not changing at all. So obviously when the duty ratio is not changing, it is not varying, like it is not going from D high to D low or D low to D high again. So obviously the speed ripple will reduce, this torque ripple will reduce, because it is just supplying D low value now. And
It's
by
D is not varying, so ripple is okay.
Yeah, you won't be finding that much of ripple over there. So, but again, when we are having a high speed, suppose when the motor is being driven, the reference speed is very high, like 2300 RPM. So obviously, in this case, what happens is the motor is the triple DPWM, as you can see that from here we have reduced this D high value from 0.4 0.9 to 0.4. Now this controller is not able to track the speed, but all of a sudden what happens, the vibration will increase from here, means for a particular moment, because obviously this is because we have reduced the D high value from 0.9 to 0.4. So obviously a sudden this ripple will be there. But again here what happens is the motor is again following this 0.4 duty ratio. So you can have a little, because as the duty ratio is the high duty ratio is higher, 0.5 it is, 0.4 it is, you can observe an increase in the ripple. So obviously,
based on this, so is the PWM irrelevant as long as you have you just maintain your D to follow the reference?
No, I'm not getting you.
So in all the cases, what I understood is, as long as you're trying to, basically it depends on duty ratio. That's it. The ripple.
The ripple depends upon the duty ratio. If it is not varying, if it is not varying within a particular region, then obviously it will be the ripple will be very low.
Got it.
So now I'll be switching over to the next slide, and I'll show what happens when we take the Fourier transform of this particular speed ripple. So this is the particular, this ripple is in millivolts, and as you can see, we have taken the FFT of this one. So after getting the FFT, we can see that at 2160, this particular frequency will be having a peak. So this peak is constant throughout the this speed control operation range. So whatever may be the load, whatever may be the reference speed, you will be, we will be getting a peak at 2160. This is because this is the working frequency of that particular metal that we are using. So obviously when the motor starts, or what happens is the natural frequency of the metal will be added up with the frequency of the motor, means like the driving frequency, and will be having a working frequency at 2160 hertz. So at this particular frequency will be getting a peak. So we have compared the peak of all the particular means whatever may possible speed region at 0.2 Newton meter. So in all the cases we can see that the peak is higher for triple DPWM, but for QEEPWM the peak is somewhat lesser. In some cases, it is lesser to a great extent, like this one. But for some cases, it is not that less, but still lesser, as you can see in these cases. This was the finding that we had while we were calculating the vibration of the motor. Again, as you can see, this is the color map that I have shown here for different values of suppose these are different values of speed and for different frequencies. Again, for same constant 0.2 Newton meter, you can observe that at 2160 we are having a constant peak as you can see this one. Again, here also, here this 2160 value is having a constant peak, this one. But this is for the triple D PWM and this is for quadruple D digital pulse width modulation, this one. So as you can see, the maximum peak over here is ranging till 0.05 volts, but here again it is being limited within 0.025. So you can say the motor vibrations in average or in terms of frequency is very much lesser in case of in general operation. It is lesser in case of quadruple digital pulse width modulation as compared to triple DPWM. Now again, here we have shown the RMS piezo means output voltage, the RMS values of the voltage again at 0.2 Newton meters, and you can see in most of the cases, except for this one, in most of the cases, this RMS value of the vibration, that is electrical output voltage of the piezoelectric transducer, is lesser in for the case of QEED PWM as compared to triple D PWM. Now, this one also we have measured the noise of also the noise of the motor. So the noise of the motor that is being produced when it is in operation means when it is operating, and the ratio means the ratio is at operation to the noise of the motor is not being operated. So obviously in most of the cases you can see that for the triple D PWM the noise is higher most of the cases, as you can see for the comparison thing. At different loads you can say the noise production is higher. This happens because obviously when we are having 4 operational range of duty ratios, obviously when the motor is being motor is operating within 2 narrow range of operation duty ratios, then at that time the noise production will be reduced because the torque ripple and the speed ripples are getting reduced. And finally, as I have shown, for low operational range, the speed of the motor is being tracked and with a little bit error of 0.2 Newton meter, as I have already discussed. And that particular moment of time, what are the vibrations of the motor that we have shown here? We have tried to show here. So obviously, when the speed of the motor is getting increased, the reference speed is increasing. So as you can see, from 200 RPM to 700 RPM, the average the RMS value of the piezoelectric transducer output voltage is getting increased. But when for low values of speed, this is to suppose for 200 RPM, reference 200 RPM, as you can see, this is 21.6 millivolt, and gradually it is increasing the RMS value. But as you can see, you can find out these peaks, like these peaks over here. As I have shown in the first speed response, the QD-PWM controller was able to track the speed, but what happens here? The motor speed will, suppose this is the reference, the motor speed will increase like this. It will again come down. It again rise. Again it will come down. Again rise, and again it will come down. So this is the particular range at which this is the particular time the motor speed is rising. This is the time when the motor speed is rising, and again gradually when it is coming down, then you'll be finding this kind of vibrations. Again, when it is going up, you'll be having this particular high vibrations. Again, it will reduce down. So this happens as the frequency is increasing. The frequency of this vibrations will also increase.
Understood.
Yeah. So finally, we can conclude that this QEED-PWM can reduce the motor vibrations and speed ripples, and again with minor modifications in gate level components, we can get QDPWM as compared to triple DPWM, so which is very lesser as compared to the conventional controls. So ASIC fabrication also will be low power and low cost application, low power and low cost applications. ASIC can be designed from QDPWM. So and again, this QDPWM has been tested for various conditions as I have already shown, and it works properly for all the cases, and shows better dynamic and faster settling time, for better dynamic response, and speed tracking ability is also comparable for both the cases. And as you can see, the speed of the motor can be controlled in a wider range, that is approximately 8 to 100% of the rated speed. So and now in the horizon, what we can do is we can increase the number of levels without increasing the gate level complexity of the circuits. So this is a thing that can be done. And also we can design such simple control techniques, other simple control techniques that can be useful for low cost ASIC designs.
Very good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good, Pratik. Yeah. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, these are the references, and you can follow the references. Obviously, it will be uploaded, so you can follow the references also. And this is the author bio. You can connect to me from the Google from ResearchGate or Google Scholar. You can have a look on the profile, on my profile, and you can directly connect to me from the mail ID that I've mentioned here. So yes, sir, tell me.
Very good presentation, Pratikanta. Thank you for your time. Incredibly detailed work. We'll take one question from the audience before I have a question.
Sure. Thank you.
Pranav, okay, we'll see whether they can unmute themselves. Pranav, can you unmute yourself and go ahead? Okay, he asked a question: is triple D PWM a sensor or a circuit type which provides the PWM? A little vague. Maybe you can go to the block diagram where you had triple D PWM and QDD PWM and just give a basic difference. That's what I think.
Yeah. So from here, I'll explain. As you can see, for in case of triple D PWM, what happens is, as you can see, only one. In case of triple D PWM, as you can see here, the reference speed is having, means we are having a particular reference speed. We are comparing it with the speed that we have got from the motor, and from this comparison, we are just having two duty ratios, that is D low and D high. No other duty ratios are there. So obviously, if the current that we have measured from the DC link is not exceeding from the limit that we have calculated or we have decided, this limit can be constant, or this limit depends upon you totally. So you can design current limit or a current limiter you can design, or this might be a static limit. So from this limit, you can compare, we can have an idea whether to allow any of these two duty ratios or just to skip the duty ratio. If the motor speed is higher than the reference, then you can go for D low, or else you can go for D high. And if the current is exceeding the limit, totally you don't have to provide anything like D low or D high. This is the concept of triple DPWM. But what happens with QDPWM, QDPWM? In this case, we are not just considering the present situation of the speed comparison that we have got. We are also considering the past sampling time, and based on the past sampling time, if suppose that I have already mentioned that in the past sampling time, if the same case has happened, like this, if the speed is greater than reference, suppose this is the case for the present sampling time, and also for the last sampling time the same thing has happened. In that case, what will happen? We'll just select zero duty ratio. Or if the past duty for the past sampling time, the case was not like this and the speed was lesser than the reference speed, then we'll be going for D low. So this will have a gradual increment and decrement in the speed. Like in the previous case, all of a sudden we were just using D low and D high. But in this case, this thing won't happen. We'll be gradually moving. Suppose this is the reference speed, we'll be gradually moving towards the higher side, or sorry, from the low side to the higher side will be gradually moving. But what happens with triple DPWM, suppose this is the speed of the motor right now, it will suddenly rise and again it will suddenly fall. This is the speed response that I have already shown. But in case of QDPWM, it will be little bit smoother like this.
Okay, okay. So essentially, you have made a discrete duty ratio to a continuous duty ratio.
Yeah. Without means without increasing the complexity of the circuit, we have tried to do this thing.
Good, good. Very good, Pratikanta. Great explanation. Thank you. Very good work.
Thank
Good
you.
to see such so much results. Very good. In the audience, if anybody has any question, please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to welcome the questions and queries.
Yeah. One more question, Pratikanta, because
Yeah.
this was very new concept. What is the advantage? Like I primarily deal with power converters. So
Yeah.
usually power converters follow this QDDPWM.
Yeah.
So is there any advantage of going for triple DPWM? Let's say if I know, let's say the load variation is not too much, either
Yeah.
I'll be using a single converter, but maybe operating at 2 levels.
Yeah.
So any advantages do you see of going for triple DPWM?
See, for triple D PWM, as long as you know that the speed control, this suppose the load variation in your case is not very high, or very it is within a narrow range, then obviously you should go for the triple D PWM. Because what happens in our case, like in motor drive, suppose there is an electric vehicle, suppose for a two-wheeler, the motor, this load on the motor is not fixed, because obviously you'll be getting slopes, you'll be getting hilly areas, or suppose all of a sudden two people are riding the vehicle and someone is around, someone is an overweight person. So obviously the load will be, that load, you cannot guess the load range, obviously. But suppose when you are using this for a truck, obviously for a four-wheeler truck, then obviously the load is not varying that much. So totally depends upon your application and what inputs you can give in terms of financial financial input you can give, depends on that. So obviously triple DPWM is the cost is lesser, obviously lesser.
And also response is faster for triple DPWM response in the sense because you have not in the case.
No. Because obviously triple DPWM you cannot go for as a on off, because it might that duty ratio won't be selecting 100% duty ratio, or else it will be called as on off controller, obviously. So but here, as you are having a 100% duty ratio and zero duty ratio also additionally, so obviously the response will be the response time will be faster in case of double DPWM.
Good. Very good, Pratikanta. I think you have answered all questions. Please reach out to Pratikanta. We'll be more than happy to answer all your questions. Please go through the paper as well. Very good. You have a lot of effort put in to collect the results and to present. So very good work, Pratikanta, and we hope to see more quality publications from you.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
is this
Thanks a
your
lot.
core work? Is this your core work, or you're extending it?
No, actually, I have been planning to increase. I mean, it's like I have to drift a little bit towards the ASIC design of the things, because mostly we don't see the ASIC designs of this motor drives, because obviously no one focuses. Very few literatures you'll be finding out on this area, and obviously if you're dealing with such a new area, obviously you're having a better scope over there.
Good. Very
So
good.
I'm focusing currently on that. So let us see.
Very good. Yeah, very good approach. Yeah, it's better to go to in non-crowded places in this thing, so that it will be beneficial and useful also. So good. Very good. Thank you very much, Pratikanta, and thank you everyone for attending. Yeah. Thank you, Pratikanta. We'll end it now. And
Yeah.
thank you very much for your time. Greatly
Thank you.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.